We're going to start the day off with a tweet, actually two tweets, about, and this is sort of, I guess, a bit of a primer. I'm going to refer to it as the modern religion known as global warming, of which I am agnostic. So I believe that climate change is happening and that human beings contribute to it. However, when discussing the topic, it's important to remember that climate models are not perfect. Here is an example where our doomsday calculation was dramatically off. And I linked to an article that I believe was referring to a calculation in a climate model about ocean temperature, which actually showed that with a slight adjustment, it changed the outcome of the model of the study dramatically, going from sort of a doom and gloom scenario to something a bit more positive. So I then go on to say in my next tweet here, this kind of widely circulated error can have devastating impact, not only creating problems in geopolitical relations, if legislation is passed using it, and the economy, but also destroying friendships and relationships, given how important climate change is to certain people. Now, as I said that I am agnostic on it, it is not all that important to me. I do believe that we must reduce pollution and seek cleaner, greener energy as much as possible. That's why I do support the advent of Generation 3 and Generation 4 nuclear power and the Green Nuclear Deal, which will have these... if you look on Twitter, you can find Mark Schneider, and he talks about the Generation 4 nuclear, which is still very experimental and hasn't really been funded. The research is still ongoing, but Generation 3 is already in activity. And in the case of Generation 4, well, it can't melt down, and it uses nuclear waste for fuel. And I think the yield is something in the range of about 90%. So that's actually pretty good, and it's more energy efficient than wind or solar, which may also be good solutions, but again, economically speaking, nuclear blows them away. Okay? And of course, as I am agnostic on the global warming modern religion, fossil fuels, I see them as something that, well, we're not going to be able to get rid of all that easily, despite the fact that they are demonized very often in our media. And as they're demonized in our media, friends and family, that get their news and information from the media tend to get their opinion from the media as well. So I say this kind of widely circulated error in the climate science. So science is not settled, okay? By its very nature, science is not settled. One scientist over here says, here's my hypothesis. Another scientist comes up over here and says, here's my hypothesis. And then we, or others, decide between the two, on peer review, scientific review. The answer, if these are conflicting, is either one or the other, or somewhere in between. Usually somewhere in between. But the question has to be asked, which is where the science, the scientific method, comes in. So it is important to remember that climate models, like if you see the hockey stick where it shows a clear upward trajectory because of CO2, carbon dioxide in the air, they're trying to say there's a correlation. And there appears to be, but correlation is not causation, of course. And so some scientists say that CO2 is critical and it's causing a huge problem that's going to blow up in the entire world's face and cause cataclysmic events by if not before, the year 2100, 2100, which is right down the road, about 82 years, 81 years, which again, these models are having trouble predicting even modern day temperatures. There's very few models that actually show that they can predict not only the past but also the future. There is one model, I forget the name of it, you can put this into Google and look for the Russian model. I don't want to say the wrong, it has a scientific name, or the model has a sort of, it's like ICM or something, but I do not want to say it wrong, so please go on to Google if you're interested, or DuckDuckGo, or Wikipedia to find more information on that. And there are links to that on my Twitter as well. Okay, and if you find any errors in this video or have any commentary, you can also comment on the tweet that I'll be attaching this video to. And I look forward to speaking with you regarding what's going on. But this kind of widely circulated error can have devastating impact not only on the geopolitical relations and the economy, because of major decisions made by politicians based on what could potentially be faulty science. Again, we have to do the research. We have to allow free speech and open debate and scientific discovery to take place, regardless of how uncomfortable the results might be. Are we global warming? Are we global cooling? That is up for debate, depending on the timeline used. On longer timelines, things tend to have a different overall trend. So it's something that you have to look at really closely, but it can destroy friendships and relationships because people are passionate about protecting the environment, and I am too. And I do believe that there is great moral virtue in protecting our environment. Absolutely. I mean, it's where we are, it's where we live, it's our home, it's our planet. And the animals and the plants, they could use our intelligence to make sure that their future is secure as well. But destroying friendships and relationships, it happens. If you say to a friend, I think that global warming is a modern religion, it's based on faith and reason, a mix of the two, in some cases more faith, and in some cases more reason, and they'll look at you and say, you're a bad person. That is immoral. You are allowing the earth to go to hell in a handbasket. And of course, that can negatively impact your relationship with them. They don't trust your judgment as much because look at your opinion on global warming. Of course, you shouldn't fall into the Gell-Mann amnesia effect. Just because I might be completely wrong or completely right on one topic doesn't mean I am completely wrong or completely right on another topic. Certainly the case, if I have an expertise in one topic, it doesn't mean that I have an expertise in all topics. So when I'm listening to somebody, a pundit or a psychologist or a public figure, a political figure talk, say for example Jordan Peterson, he's not exactly an expert in all fields, and it shows at times, right? But the areas in which he is, very studied, of course, his opinion has more credibility. Okay? So it is important that we get this climate thing right, because this is our planet, and it could be catastrophic if we do not act. That is possible. But in my world, I still haven't been fully persuaded. And in the meantime, I advocate for lower pollution, and I advocate for nuclear energy because it seems to be the most cost-effective, powerful, and safe way for us to slowly phase out of fossil fuels. But I want to make it clear, with 84% or so of the world's energy being fossil fuels and them being cheaper, and given the state of the world economy and the economy of different areas, notably third world countries that are currently relying on fossil fuels to power their electrical grids and so forth. I know India only recently got electricity in certain areas. So it's not the same situation it is in gentrified or, higher money areas or more developed areas. There's parts of the world that would love to have coal, and they still use coal, and they would love to have fossil fuel power to move them into the 21st century. But they're not there yet, and we have to get them there, and it's not going to happen using solar and wind, most likely. Those technologies, while wonderful, hey, use the sun for power, sounds like a good idea to me. It's just not quite a complete solution. It could help offset things a little bit, but it's not a replacement for fossil fuel. I think that nuclear, once more further developed, could be a bit more of a long-term solution. And of course, we are having some problems with the rarity of lithium. I know lithium mining in certain countries has become a very profitable venture, but it's also becoming, in some cases, scarce. Definitely do your research on that. Check it out. Let me know if how right or wrong I am about that, but I did read something about that. I believe that China is trying to mine lithium, develop that, and that's extremely important for our rechargeable batteries and so on and so forth. And for full transparency, I am a Tesla shareholder as of about a week ago when it hit its 52-week low. So I do have a slight vested interest in seeing renewables and seeing electric cars and seeing these things. I don't want to see more carbon emissions, but I also don't have carbon guilt. So if you have an old Hummer out there that you're trying to get rid of, send it my way. I will gladly drive that beast around.